On February 28th, 2019, the CNN experience for Magic Leap 1 launched with a goal of, quote, bringing news out of the screen and into your world. So I noticed that there was quite a bit of negative feedback. The reception on some platforms wasn't that great, and so I was really curious. For me, Twitter is my major news source, so I don't watch a lot of news or TV, cable network, CNN type news, so I was really surprised. So I started to investigate a little bit deeper, like what significance is CNN and Magic Leap in this relationship? I wanted to better understand why mixed reality worked or could work, or what the vision is behind the CNN application. And that's kind of what we're going to get into in this video. So, in a nutshell, the CNN Beta Magic Leap application is a small piece of a much bigger picture. The big picture is Magic Leap's Magic Verse, as they like to call it, which is digital information layered on top of the real world and accessed anywhere through 5G connectivity and Magic Leap devices. To better understand the significance of the CNN Magic Leap application, we need to go back in time just a little bit further. In July 2018, AT&T announced a strategic partnership with Magic Leap. Aside from a general injection of investment money, AT&T would also become the exclusive online distributor in the United States for Magic Leap devices once the consumer edition became available. And AT&T would also have Magic Leap devices available to experience in select retail locations as well. Skipping ahead a few months to October 2018, at Magic Leap's first developer conference, LeapCon, AT&T announced plans to bring two big things to Magic Leap: connectivity and content, to further create the future of entertainment, as they put it. So, as far as connectivity goes, this would include a 5G zone on Magic Leap campus in Plantation, Florida, to be ready in 2019. That's a pretty big deal. And then number two, as far as content goes, AT&T also announced plans to launch DirecTV Now beta to Magic Leap 1 as well in 2019. They said, quote, we plan to offer Warner Media content via demos in select stores as well. Great, so we almost have a complete picture about what's going on here. So to better understand the content relationship between AT&T and Magic Leap, we have to look at June 2018, where there was an $85 billion acquisition merger between AT&T and Warner Media. This is significant because AT&T owns Time Warner Media, and Time Warner Media owns Turner Broadcasting System. Well, Turner Broadcasting System has a bunch of properties of content, including the CNN News Group. So you start to see how the CNN News Group in this application is like one piece of this content puzzle that I bet is really attractive for Magic Leap executives. It's not just a 5G deal for connectivity, it's also a content play. It's also a way for them to get all of these properties onto Magic Leap devices for consumers. And that's pretty powerful. Well, the Department of Justice definitely didn't really like this merger. So they filed a complaint and appeal against this merger in July of 2018. It wasn't until February 26th of 2019 that a panel of federal judges approved the deal. This was only 3 days before the CNN app was launched. So it seems to have been in the works for quite some time, but that they were just waiting for this appeal to get resolved. So that's just a little bit of context and background information as to why CNN and why now. It took a lot of people by surprise. They were hoping to see something different perhaps from the news watching experience, but overall this is a connectivity play and a content play between AT&T and Magic Leap, which has pretty big implications for the future. I'm really interested to see what other properties, what other channels you could say that AT&T and Magic Leap will make available to consumers in the near future.
All right, well, for this in-depth app review, we're going to be comparing the CNN mixed reality app that was just recently released, and we're going to be comparing it directly against using the Magic Leap Helio browser to look at CNN content as well, and kind of what are the differences here in the news reading experience. So first step in Magic Leap, you're going to go to Magic Leap World, which is the App Store. Once you get into Magic Leap World, you're going to see your CNN app as a recently published app. After downloading this, you might be surprised because you're going to go to all apps, for example, trying to find the CNN app, and you're not going to find it. That's because it's nested within the Screens app for Magic Leap. And that's what this guy is right here. So first you got to place it, pin it in your space, and then you're going to see other related Screens applications, including the NBA Experience, CNN Beta Wallpaper Whales, and Magic Leap instructional videos. All right, so let's dive in. Great, so this is the first thing that we see once we open the CNN app. It gives us kind of, well, I'm not sure what the real term might be, but it's kind of like this is our home screen. This is our viewing portal. And it says press the home button and select a video. So good instructions here. So the home button is this round one here on the side in the middle. After I press that, you get this kind of pop-out menu that shows content. And this is interesting because it's not asking me to scale the windows immediately or anything like that. It's just giving me my viewing window and content ready to view. So in general, I'm just able to kind of select different videos from the content menu.
The Democrats' investigations into President Trump expanding, and we're learning.
And then it just streams it directly to this viewing window there. Now, if I want to view the content again, I just press the home button and it brings that menu back up again. Now, the first criteria we're going to be comparing the Magic Leap Mixed Reality app against the Helio app is just the design. And what you can see here is that this is definitely designed specifically for Magic Leap input, Magic Leap viewing, Magic Leap capabilities. And that's really nice. Just makes it convenient, makes it easy, and makes for a more pleasant viewing experience when it's specific like this. How I like to look at it is for when I'm watching Netflix on my Xbox, for example, technically I can use the Microsoft Edge browser to go to Netflix, log in, and to watch my content, but I'd much rather use the native app that I can download from my Xbox to watch videos and content. Okay, so as we're looking at comparative point number 1 with design, we're going to open up the Helio app, which is the Magic Leap browser, to see what a CNN experience could be like and compare that to the CNN Magic Leap Mixed Reality experience, right? So I visited it previously, so it shows up in my recent views, and we're just going to pull that up for ease. So immediately you see this Helio browser window. It's pretty bright. It always surprises me with Magic Leap how bright the colors are. So this purple kind of cursor moving around, I'm using my thumb on the touchpad to move that around. You'll notice that this looks exactly like you might expect a browser window. You see advertisements at the top, you see the different tabs here, you see the stock information happening. If you want to scroll down, you need to hold down on the touchpad, and you see links to a bunch of articles. So that it's literally a 2D browsing paradigm that you're experiencing through mixed reality. Just for a quick comparison, I wanted to show you the New York Times Helio demo page. So by opening this up, it shows you kind of a concept for what a reading/viewing experience might be like, which resembles more or less kind of the 2D viewing paradigm that we're kind of used to by reading online. So here we have nice viewable font by the New York Times. We have the body text, and you can imagine that this could be a picture or a video-based content right there. Great. The second topic we're going to be doing for our comparison is kind of navigation and looking at the UI and how we're going back and forth between the content that we want to consume. So what we have is using the home button on our Magic Leap controller to access the main content menu. And there are menus and submenus that you have here as far as topics go. You're using the touchpad to kind of scroll around and select It doesn't use like a laser pointer type approach. It's not gaze based. It's just me swiping around on the touchpad to select my content and then using the trigger to select that. Once you have your content selected, you can use the home menu to close out this content window. And then looking back here at this main content section, here's what we have so far. So what's kind of cool here is this scrub bar. It's kind of interesting. You see it's interactive. You select it with the trigger, it isolates it from everything else, and then use the touchpad, swiping left or right like this, and you're able to kind of scrub the video along. Now it doesn't show you, the image at that time marker, but it's a pretty simple way to kind of get into moving through a video quickly if you need to. Looking at other elements, you're able to rewind 10 seconds, close captions if they're available, forward 10 seconds, and then the volume. Great, but what if I want to move my windows or adjust them on a different wall, for example? Well, remember, using the home button, we can open this content menu, and we have this help bar available to us. And so we use the trigger. It says point and hold trigger to reposition screens. And so that's how we're going to do this. So I'm going to hold the trigger and it becomes pinned, tied to my hand. And this is where it's really interesting. So all I'm doing right now is I'm moving my arm back and forth like this, and it brings the window further or closer. Now you notice it's not scaling it, it's just moving it, and it's actually pretty comfortable, and I like this method. So then once it's placed, then that's where it is. If I want to scale it, then I have to select it again, and while holding the trigger down, I'm going to use the right and left, like bigger and smaller, and this is how I will scale the window, the viewing window. Some things that kind of make navigation a little tricky are actually closing the windows. For me, being able to use the trackpad here with just my thumb to get up to that X sometimes requires like 4 or 5 swipes to finally get it up there. I'm not sure if it's a combination of pressure sensitivity with my thumb or if I need to swipe from the very bottom all the way to the top or what it is, but I actually have a lot harder time than I'd like to swiping up to that X in the top right corner to close out of a window. I'm not sure why that is. Another thing is that if I want to bring up my content window again right now, it doesn't scale the content window with the viewing window that it's closest to. So now I have to go through this process of the same thing, kind of rescaling this window to match the size, the viewing size. What would be kind of nice is if it scaled automatically with the window that it might be associated with. I can understand how this might be an independent menu and I'm moving around in my space, but just one consideration to think about. One other kind of tricky point with the navigation is that this app encourages you to use the bumper button to create new windows. So I hit the bumper button here and it's going to pop open a new window in front of me. Well, with other landscape apps in Magic Leap, I'm actually double tapping the bumper button to get rid of windows. So sometimes on accident, I'm looking at a window that I want to close and I'll double tap this bumper and I'll end up creating 2 new windows. And that's just, the inputs are kind of not universal across other landscape apps and this app, for example. So there's a little bit of confusion that can happen there. Great, so looking at comparative point number 2 for Helio CNN experience is in navigation and in the UI. I really feel like pretty clumsy using my thumb on the touchpad to get around everywhere that I need. Thumb fatigue, I don't think it might not be a real thing, or maybe it is, but I don't feel very precise. It makes me feel like I'm just not really able to get where I need to go in a convenient way. It would be fantastic if I could use a laser pointer type function from my Magic Leap controller to just be really precise. Another interesting point with navigation in UI is how Helio treats resizing and replacing my screen. So Remember on the CNN Beta mixed reality app, I just use the trigger, hold it down, and then I'm able to replace the windows. Well, if I try that same thing here, holding this trigger, it doesn't let me do anything. It's not letting me replace the window, so it's requiring a different input for me to remember. So how you do that with Helio is you tap the bumper button right here, and then you select move. And now this is really unique because on the CNN Beta app, it's tied to my controller for placement, but here with Helio, it's tied to my head. So as I'm gazing around, it's adjusting itself. Then I use the touchpad here to scale up and scale down in size. So it's using a combination of both my headset and my controller, which that's fine. It's just not consistent with the CNN app, so there could be some confusion there in knowing what to expect or how to best control an experience. And I can see myself, and it's happened multiple times, not knowing what I'm doing. Like, why is it not resizing? How come I can't move this around? Excellent. The third topic we're going to be diving into in this comparison is content. So the first thing, and maybe the biggest differentiator between the Magic Leap app and, say, accessing on Helio is there's no reading. It is pure video content that you have here on Magic Leap. If you get to the video, you'll see that there's no links to take you to an additional article. There's no other points for you to kind of touch on. I don't really see who's making a video or who the main team is behind it or anything like that. Digging a little bit deeper into the types of content that are available, you'll see that you have exclusive content right here. And if you try to select that, then it asks you to log in into your CNN account. Something that's really interesting about the ability to just pop up a new viewing screen wherever I want is that I can have custom content in different areas of my space. For example, here in my home, the living room might be a great place for like travel or entertainment or TV shows or whatever. And then as I make my way into the kitchen, there's cooking stuff. For example, this Anthony Bourdain show where he's cooking like beaver. Comparative point number 3 is remember content, and I think this is where Helio kind of shines, is that it gives you the full access to the content of the website, whereas the Mixed Reality CNN beta app is kind of a curated version of that, made natively for mixed reality at that, but still kind of cutting back. So for example, jumping into this Amazon article, use the trigger to select that. It brings this up, loads it up pretty quick. The fourth and last category we're using to kind of compare the Magic Leap CNN app and the Helio browser going to CNN.com is legibility or readability. Well, the Magic Leap CNN app kind of avoids this by not having articles in the first place, but you can also just appreciate the clear fonts used. The readability is really great, and even on these thumbnails, those were probably, I'm not sure if these were made specifically for Magic Leap or not, but in general, they're all really readable. And the fact that when you scroll over one, like the center one, that it makes that thumbnail a little bit bigger definitely helps with readability. And the fourth comparative point with Helio is visibility or readability. And so we touched on this just a little bit already. So the headlines look good, even the subheaders are good. I'm able to read who wrote this fairly easily. Going down into kind of the main body content, the font feels a little small to me, so it makes me want to kind of move a little closer rather than manually bringing the window closer. I'll just move closer to it. So in general, visibility is not bad. It's pretty good. The letters don't feel fuzzy. They're pretty crisp. And all in all, I'm pretty happy with readability on Helio. The one thing that does bug me though is advertisements. You get these ads popping up here, and just depending on what website you're on, if it's news or whatnot, you're gonna get ads.
Wouldn't it be nice if getting a great deal was one less thing to juggle?
What in the world is happening?
Get
Oh,
offers
okay,
for
so
the places
you
you
just
already
saw what
love,
happened, that the video
right in your Chase
auto-played.
mobile app.
Oh, Chase is attacking me.
Simply add them, shop with your Chase card, and see the money back on your statement.
Oh man. So I'm not sure what happened, if that auto-played or if when I was scrolling up, if I tapped on the touchpad and hit this video on accident, but it brought up this Helio Chase offers just for me. Oh man. So now I can get my own very own Chase card and purchase something. Thanks, guys. So to wrap this in-depth review, the big question that's kind of on all of our minds is, how does this enhance the news watching experience, or why mixed reality, right? So in this first iteration of the CNN beta app, as they're calling it, it takes advantage of only a select few kind of features of mixed reality, which is I can move the screens around, I can place them on walls, I'm able to resize stuff, I can place content in different rooms, and that's about it, right? I'm able to kind of have news brought into my space. Now, of course, the obvious question is this more convenient or accessible than, say, watching on my mobile phone, my iPad, or my laptop, right? And that's the question. Will it become that in the future? If Magic Leap devices or mixed reality headsets eventually replace cell phones or TVs or iPads, then it very well could be that just this is the main way that we interface with content in the future. As we sit now, I don't really see myself pulling this out to view content over my iPad. Not yet, anyway. One thing that I think mixed reality will definitely help us with, that I was kind of surprised about, is focus. In this mixed reality experience anyway, there's not much interaction and there's no reading involved. You'll notice that there's no advertisements available, and I don't see 20 other links to other articles to distract me. Perhaps the only distraction is having multiple viewing screens in my space. That might be the only kind of distraction at this point in the CNN beta. But I found it very interesting that it does pull your attention. This is what I'm looking at, and it allows you to just not get distracted. And kind of the last way I think that eventually video and media consumption apps like this, like the CNN app, will make great sense in mixed reality is once they start incorporating things like spatialized data. You can imagine for sports and weather, how that could be really cool, or stocks even, or volumetric kind of people and locations that are expressed in mixed reality, and then interactivity that allows you to not just watch and passively consume the news in different media, but it allows you to impact that media, that it's being reactive to you. And I think that's the true promise of mixed reality, in that it's not creating passive media consumers out of us, but it's using our agency to make it a more meaningful experience.